be here with you today. Oh, great. So for those who don't know, just a little aside, Reiki is a form of energy balancing developed in Japan, which has spread to millions worldwide. Reiki has been proven to promote relaxation, reduce stress, improve physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And Reiki just changed my life. I quit my job, my volunteer work, and I set out to explore this world of energy and holistic healing. And I ended up using that pre-med degree that I got to actually attend chiropractic school. So when I moved to Honolulu in 2010, full of hope and the ambition to start my chiropractic practice, I was also stepping into a period of intense stress again. I was naive about building my own business. My savings and credit were running out, and I was terrified of making the wrong decisions. It wasn't just emotional. My body started sending clear signals. I developed debilitating migraines, sudden food sensitivities that landed me in the emergency room even. I started wheezing, which I've never done before. This was a profound wake-up call. It taught me firsthand that the daily stressors of life, work, and putting yourself out there don't just stay in your head, they manifest physically, triggering our body's stress response, which can develop into anxiety and depression when prolonged. My body was keeping score in ways that my mind couldn't ignore. This crisis became my greatest teacher about the mind-body connection. So recovery required integrating everything I knew with everything I needed to learn. So self-Reiki calmed my body and helped me avoid medications. Acupuncture addressed the physical and energetic imbalances. My chiropractic training helped me understand the nervous system connections, while regular adjustments kept me aligned. Functional medicine revealed the nutritional links and helped me understand how our biological systems are interconnected. I also even received business coaching that incorporated tapping or EFT, which got me into the roots of my fears, clearing blocks to success. Um, as a Reiki teacher, I taught Reiki classes, deepening my understanding of energy work and growing a community of folks learning to interact with and balance our human biofield. That's kind of what the scientists call it. This biofield of ours is a complex organizing energy field surrounding and permeating our bodies. It's made up of electromagnetic, thermal, and subtle energies that extend actually several feet around the body. So disruptions or imbalances are thought to affect health. Although science has yet to explain the mechanism by which energy therapies work, they have proven the actual beneficial effects of Reiki and other energy work practices. And then also as part of my healing process, I connected to the land of Oahu and to community, learning about living in Hawaii as a Filipino through groups like Urban Babaylan and volunteering with Unite Here Local 5. And I helped to found the group called Decolonial Pinais and Pinoys Hawaii, dedicated to demilitarization, decolonization, healing, and creative liberation, which was active from about 2013 to 2018. And I also volunteered at the White People's Fund for many years. During COVID, having practiced energy work by then for about 15 years and my chiropractic work for about 10 years, I actually wrote a book distilling my work into a meta self-healing framework that I use in practice. And this book is meant for sensitive intuitives like me, like all of you, many of you who want to turn their heightened awareness and deep feeling powers into a superpower. So the book is currently available on Amazon. But also during COVID, very, disruptive, but also productive time, I had the opportunity virtually to learn about Hilot, our traditional healing system, with the Hilot Academy of Binabaylan based in the Philippines. I actually also ended up visiting these folks, but Apu Adman and Lakai showed me how our ancestors understood mind-body healing. And I realized that how I came to intuitively shape my practice very much overlaps with our indigenous healing approaches. And actually they'll be coming in August. I think La Akea Healing Center is sponsoring them to teach Hilot here. So that should be fun. I added sound healing to my practice using tuning forks, vocalizing affirmations during a session. During my Hilot training, I realized I had already been practicing my own kind of oracion as the Hilot's practice. Through my experiences, research, intuitive guidance, I built energetic, somatic, and nutritional approaches to go beyond addressing the physical level and also treating mental and emotional stress. I dedicated my volunteer work to addressing community wellness on a systemic level. And this is exactly how our indigenous healing practices work, seeing the person as a whole being in existing in relation to our families, communities, and the universe. not just biological cells or chemistry, So I specialize in working with our sensitive family members, those dealing with complex chronic health issues like anxiety, depression, migraines, cancer, hormonal imbalances like fatigue, even menopause, chronic pain, eczema, digestive problems, asthma, even infertility. As you'll see later, a lot of these are all actually related. Sometimes a patient presents with all of those symptoms all at the same time. Um, the way I see it, us sensitive ones are the ones tasked with doing the deep ancestral healing for our current and future generations. It's a big job, but we have the self-healing tools and are reclaiming our cultural practices and we have healing practitioners and energy workers, many of us also here on this Zoom, that have been investing in building our skills and raising our vibration and honing our intuitive abilities. And we're all here to help. So combining all of these experiences helped me to see how everything is interconnected. This integration became the foundation of how I practice and live today. This marks the culmination of 2 decades of dedication to the field of mind-body energy medicine. So getting into the biology or some concepts here. So often mental health is viewed through a very narrow lens, focusing primarily on thoughts or brain chemistry. But a truly holistic approach recognizes that our mental and emotional well-being is influenced by a complex interplay of our thoughts and beliefs, or the mind, and then of course our body, our physical health, inflammation levels, gut health, sleep, spinal alignment, our nervous system state, our energetic balance, our biofield, our meridians, and then relationship too is something to add, which I learned in my Helot class, right? But already I kind of knew, right? Our connection to each other, as well as to the spirits of the land, or which we call Encanto, our ancestors, Anitos, our descendants, our gods, as well as our relationship to the larger universe. And then of course there is spirit, our sense of purpose, meaning, our intuition, relationship to the unseen forces of the universe. So in Filipino psychology, we have many words actually for relationship, like kapwa, our inner self that is interconnected with others, pakiramdam, our shared inner perception and sensitivity to the feelings of others, pagkatao, our sense of shared humanity or collective essence. So this kind of broader awareness and sensitivity to others, is cultural. So even as we tune into our own selves, it's akin to kind of, I don't know if you've been in Manila and you see how the traffic flow is, there are all these cars moving as though you're in a school of fish, right? Because sometimes there's no lanes, but folks are just moving because, we're so attuned to ourselves in relation to others. So this can be a strength in its highest expression, as it was for our revolutionary ancestors that were able to defend against forces much stronger than them. But also it could be a debilitating sensitivity or survival trait that could more easily predispose us to coping mechanisms such as hypervigilance and people pleasing, right, or appeasing. When we see, though, mental health in this broader way, we uncover many more potential entry points for healing and support, offering hope, especially when more conventional approaches, are not enough. So let's see. Next. Okay, more biology. That is actually what I majored in college, but it's helpful. It's helpful to know. So delving deeper into this concept of survival, we don't talk enough and learn enough about how our bodies work, but it's just so helpful. Of course, our body is essential to the experience and growth of our spirit, right? So I want to point out this little part in our brain here called the amygdala. It's kind of like our brain's security guard. It's constantly asking, am I safe? And responding within milliseconds. So when it detects a threat, real or even perceived, it triggers your stress response before your thinking brain can even evaluate the situation. So, the stress response would be like fight or flight, freeze or shut down, right? Or collapse. It's also crucial in forming and storing emotional memories, especially those tied to intense experiences like fear, anger, even shame. So this served our ancestors well, but in modern life, it can misfire. work deadlines, social media, financial pressures. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference between like a saber-toothed tiger and a difficult client email. So, okay, so what hijacks your brain's control center? Okay, well, chronic mental stress, mental emotional stress, unresolved trauma, constant worry, perfectionism, actually literally shrinks what's called your prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex is actually what helps to balance the amygdala, right? We'll get more into it, but one quick tip here that I teach my Reiki students, what's part of what makes someone a good practitioner or energy worker or even a great business person is to learn how to release attachment to outcomes. So to allow the energy to flow where it's needed, or as a leader to trust in your creative ideas, your instinct and your flow and divine timing. So when I feel myself attached, I'm usually kind of in a stress hunch posture and then I'm not breathing. So like imagine I'm putting my hands on someone, but I'm kind of like trying to make things happen, right? And that does not fly in Reiki, not at all. You cannot control a person's healing process. And actually, it's the person on the table who's doing all the healing. They're the ones drawing the energy through you, and you're just a channel, right? But, growing up as an immigrant trying to survive in suburban white New Jersey in the 70s, my perfectionist tendencies are heightened because I was subconsciously fearful of embarrassing myself, of making a mistake, of sticking out, things like that. So in any case, I realized that the breath work and postural awareness while I'm doing this work actually really shakes me out of that kind of stressful spiral. So once I notice myself again, putting my, really holding, then I kind of breathe, look up again, shake my shoulders out. And then I come back to the situation with a bit more calm and oxygen and again, release that attachment. So yeah, so try this with me, folks. So if you can kind of hunt yourselves over, right? Feel yourself kind of tensing up and then try to smile. And I'm sure it feels really weird, right? It doesn't feel natural. But when you bring your posture up, right, and look up and then try to smile again, it feels more appropriate, right? So posture is actually really important when it comes to mindfulness and awareness. Next one is neuroinflammation, right? From poor diet, excess sugar, disrupted gut microbiome, environmental toxins, which actually contribute to brain fog and emotional dysregulation. So actually this section could be a whole other workshop on nutrition and emotions for another time. Physical factors, sleep deprivation, caffeine overuse, misalignment can disrupt the nervous system's ability to communicate effectively with the brain, and even genetic epigenetic factors, right? Family trauma, inherited stress responses, that's what helps us to survive. So, of course, they're going to pass down this overactive amygdala if that's going to help us to, really keep us alive. So, and then of course, sleep deprivation just intensifies the amygdala reactivity. So if you notice on days that you have great sleep, that things that might have bothered you, on a great night's sleep day just kind of roll away, right? So because of the next slide here. So let's see. So the stress factors that we just talked about, the things that overwhelm your prefrontal cortex, right? That stress. The stress will kind of put the prefrontal cortex offline. The prefrontal cortex is our wise, rational part of our brain. Okay, so then the amygdala takes over, becomes hypervigilant, seeing threats everywhere, and your brain goes into fight, flight, freeze, or shut down. So let's explore the fright state, where excessive fear can get triggered even to non-threatening situations, right? So some call it catastrophizing, where your mind starts spinning what if scenarios. jumping to worst case conclusions, even when logically you know you're safe. So your body feels the anxiety, even though your mind knows better. So for instance, let's say you've been through a number of relationships, you've learned a lot, and now you meet the love of your life, someone you know in your heart you can totally trust. But as the relationship deepens, you notice your body begin to develop anxiety, like you want to run away. So even though in your mind and heart, you know you won't get hurt, your body is anticipating hurt based on past experiences, right? Stored in the amygdala, and it triggers this stress response like catastrophizing, which is your amygdala accessing intense emotional memories and putting out a protective program to prevent future harm. So this explains why successful, intelligent people can feel emotionally out of control. It's not a character flaw, it's neurobiology responding to chronic stress and then pulling up outdated protective programs. So this is why, work can trigger your old dysfunctional family dynamics, right? Luckily, this is all changeable, and we can work with both the body and mind to shift these patterns. A trusted therapist or mind-body practitioner can help you to practice noticing your underlying subconscious tendencies and help you to drop into your body after triggering an event to update this program, or what some call old ways of being that no longer serve, right? So for instance, if you find yourself going to the fight or flight response, you may want to give yourself a timeout if you have that, enough awareness. So pause before sending that angry email response or before saying things you might regret. Because in survival mode, we tend to interpret any information more negatively and may assume harmful intent, escalating the situation. And then during this timeout, you actually may want to complete the alarm reaction, they call it, by moving your muscles. So if you're in fight or flight, you may want to actually continue that energy by maybe doing a vigorous exercise or walk quickly up and down the stairs just to kind of release that energy, while you're upset or frustrated or angry, as a way to begin to then down regulate, right? Before you then move into slower breathing or other self-soothing strategies. Or maybe you just need to eat. Maybe you're hangry, right? So just take a break, give yourself some food, and then come back to the situation if you can. Because that's the biology that's going on, right? So, okay, anxiety and depression, they actually often travel together because they share this root of a nervous system stuck in survival mode, right? So again, this dysregulated amygdala keeps our body in a sustained stress response, right? Because of chronic stress, where fight or flight can push us towards anxiety, but it also can push us towards freeze or shutdown mode. And in freeze and shutdown, we get immobilized to keep us safe and quiet and hidden from the saber-toothed tiger. It's a way for the body to conserve energy due to perceived inescapable stress. But in the long term, we end up experiencing it as fatigue, as emotional numbness, brain fog, hopelessness, and disengagement. So this is actually the biology of depression. So when your brain prioritizes immediate safety over long-term well-being, you develop coping strategies to keep yourself safe, like being constantly on alert, people-pleasing, neglecting your own needs, perfectionism to avoid judgment and failure, self-sabotage to stay small and safe, or emotional numbing. So these protective behaviors create disconnection from your authentic self and lower your vagal tone. Okay, so we're going to talk more about that, your body's natural capacity for calm and connection. So actually, low vagal tone is strongly linked to depression. It affects your ability to feel joy, maintain stable mood, and recover from stress. Okay, so what is this? Oh, okay, and then of course, that's depression. Okay, so what is this vagal tone? It is actually a measure of the health of the vagus nerve. Okay, so you see it here, this nice long nerve that goes from your brain through your neck all the way down to your GI tract, touching all these major organs along the way, right? It's actually, so this vagus nerve is actually our built-in system for balancing the dysregulation of our wayward amygdala, which is our system's smoke alarm that won't stop beeping. So this is our body's natural reset button, connecting our brain to our heart, lungs, and digestive system. Okay. Yeah, it's the primary component of our parasympathetic nervous system, often called the rest and digest or calm and connect system. So a healthy, well-toned vagus nerve can actually help soothe an overactive amygdala and support the prefrontal cortex in its regulatory role. Increasing our vagal tone enhances our ability to shift out of stress and into a state of calm and regulation. Maintaining a high vagal tone enhances our ability to shift out of stress and into a state of calm and regulation. Maintaining a high vagal tone means you can easily shift from stress to calm, feel emotionally flexible, and maintain a stable mood, key factors in preventing both anxiety and depression. Okay, so you saw how during the meditation, we did this physiological sigh, which actually has been studied to show, and it shows that increases vagal tone. So let's try to activate it right now. Okay, so again, let's take a normal inhale through our nose. Sip a little more air at the top. Look up if you can, and then release in a long, slow exhale through your mouth. Okay, I released something there. So again, Stanford research shows just 1 to 3 of these can immediately calm your nervous system and boost vagal tone. So you could use it before difficult conversations, during stress, or anytime you need to reset. Okay. So as we saw in the beginning, research confirms numerous ways to regulate your nervous system and boost vagal tone. So there is movement, especially functional strength training, yoga, Tai Chi, nature walks, which literally process stress hormones while building resilience. And then compound movements like squats and weights not only build physical strength, but significantly improve mood and anxiety. Even 15 to 30 minutes of like afternoon, evening walking, aerobic or interval training 5 times a week can reduce anxiety sensitivity and actually also improve sleep. The nature walks combine movement, fresh air, nervous system regulation. Studies show even 20 minutes in nature reduces cortisol and improves mood. And then, of course, we talked about and we tried on breath work, which can shift you from anxiety to calm in minutes. And then mindfulness, any moments when you're able to tune in and be present to what is, to remind yourself that at that moment you are safe, helps vagal tone. Even expressive practices like narrative journaling help to rewrite your story with compassion, while positive affirmations or sending goodwill to a person or situation you worry about rewires thought patterns. And then, of course, basic foundational practices like sleep optimization and gut healing practices also nourish your system and increase vagal tone. And then with all of these practices, supercharge them by placing your bare feet to the earth. The electrons from the earth are natural antioxidants and also have anti-inflammatory and anti-aging effects, enhancing blood flow and circulation. So you want to stay young and beautiful, put your bare feet into the grass, the soil, the sand, on stone or cement, where you can actually receive the anti-aging healing magnetic power of the earth. Okay, and then there's sound, right? Sound healing offers powerful nervous system support. So actually the music that we were playing during today's meditation was the 432 hertz, which reduces anxiety and promotes calm. There's other hertz like 528, the love frequency supporting DNA repair and emotional healing. 40 hertz enhances cognitive function, focus, gamma brainwave states, etc. So you could play around with those and check it out. Even simple humming, even gargling, but definitely singing activates your vagus nerve directly through vocal cord vibrations. And so here's something our community already knows instinctively. Karaoke singing is actually one of the most effective vagal tone boosters. The combination of deep breathing, vocal vibrations, emotional expression, and social connection creates a perfect storm for nervous system regulation. So next time you're singing karaoke, Remember, you're not just having fun, you're literally healing your nervous system. Okay. So actually, let's try another little technique here that's really helpful when you notice your mind spiraling or you're catastrophizing or just, you know, yeah, you want to just stop that. So it's actually called tapping. We're going to combine a loving kindness meditation with a thymus stimulation. So what you would do is gently tap your thymus. So that's actually right here at the center of your chest, right below your collarbone. So you could do it with your fingertips or with a little gentle fist. And as you tap, you repeat these phrases with intention. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Don't forget to breathe. Nice, huh? So the thymus is part of your immune system and responds beautifully to gentle stimulation, while the meta phrases activate self-compassion. This is particularly powerful when you catch yourself in anxious what-if thinking. It brings you back to safety in both body and mind. And then for deeper support, of course, professional care like chiropractic adjustments help restore proper nervous system communication between the brain and body, supporting both prefrontal cortex function and vagal tone. And of course, also acupuncture, massage therapy, Reiki, address the energetic and physical aspects of nervous system regulation. And then, of course, while therapies from trained mental health professionals, like, approaches like EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or brain spotting is a similar approach. I mentioned the tapping or emotional freedom technique. There's even hypnotherapy, somatic experiencing, all different kinds of mind body therapies that therapists can integrate into their practice and do. All right. So modern science is beginning to validate what traditional healers have always known. We are more than just physical and psychological beings. We are energetic and spiritual beings as well. So we talked a little bit about the biofield, and there is definitely research out there that's trying to catch up to what we already know around the fact that we do have this field that is impacted, surrounds us, it permeates us, and is involved in balancing our nervous system and in promoting healing. And then, of course, also our Filipino spiritual traditions, very similar again in terms of seeing the body, as an energetic entity, and using approaches, because Hilot is not just massage, it's also prayer, it's energy work, it's spiritual cleansing, it's all of that too. Okay. And it's actually really helpful for integration. So, but how do we make lasting change, right? So a lot of these approaches kind of help you in the moment, and those moments are actually really critical, right? Critical moments of, continuing to teach our nervous system that it's safe, and to update our nervous system to the present moment, because, a lot of these knee-jerk reactions are from the past, from a lot of them set from our childhood. So needing time to integrate, creating sense of safety and capacity within our systems to integrate a lot of this information, as a lot of these feelings, is really helpful. Intentional time to slow down, space to feel, to process. As children, most of us didn't know what to do with these strong emotional experiences, our own and being sensitive to others. Of course, our amygdala stores these experiences for future reference, engages a survival response, as we talked about, that we created in childhood to survive such moments. So again, these practices of rewiring, as well as space and time to integrate, are really important. Okay. Yeah, and then, of course, all of these practices, as they contribute to increasing our vagal tone, and, when you have a high vagal tone, you're able to better regulate. You are able to feel safe and calm enough to experience a full range of emotions without getting stuck in them. So it's not about avoiding stress, but about better managing and tolerating stress and responding effectively and flexibly to whatever comes our way. We would have more clarity, better connection to our intuition, and make decisions from a deeper and wiser place. Of course, again, any kind of energy work is powerful here, in terms of helping with integration, and also mind body work. And then again, the power of rest. So a lot of times we can be impatient with ourselves around the time it takes to process our emotions and all these things. But this is really the important work. This is the healing work. This is the work that's going to help us to heal future generations. So yeah, it's going to take some time and, energy. But this is the work of this generation. So actually, while you rest, a good practice while you're resting is, and I teach a lot of my patients this, is to actually prop your legs up in a 90-degree leg rest, or even up the wall as a yoga position for at least 10 minutes. And what that does is it allows the low back muscles and the psoas muscle to release, relieving tension in the low back, hips, neck, and shoulders. But it actually also helps your nervous system to move from a sympathetic to a parasympathetic rest and digest space. And it improves blood flow and circulation. Okay. But the most important relationship you'll ever have is with yourself. So most important is this idea of self-attunement, being able to tune into your own emotional and physical signals, and develop a safe, consistent, compassionate relationship with yourself. Even just placing your hands, in Reiki we already learned this, but just the simple act of placing your hands on your heart, placing your hands on your solar plexus, and just tuning in and deeply listening to yourself is actually a really important thing to do, and will help to build that self-trust and emotional regulation. Okay. So resilience, it's not about avoiding stress or being, invincible, but true resilience is knowing you have the resources to navigate challenges. And, to be able to bounce forward, having learned and grown. So that emotional flexibility. And then, just looking back at, our cultural values, right? We come from a culture of connectedness, sensitivity, awareness of ourself in relation to the people in the world around us. Hilot is about that interwoven nature of our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And then if you see the word ginhawa, actually it's a Cebuano term for breath, but it's also a word for well-being or wellness, which is connected. So they connect it bodily to that feeling of ease, prosperity, and the ability to breathe with ease. So that's, we already culturally connect those concepts of breathing and ease. Okay, and then the other terms, again, I mentioned before, that talk about this kind of collective understanding. And then self-care, of course, taking care of ourselves so that we can then be able to, be an example for others, as well as to have the resource, to be able to work out of our abundance rather than out of our scarcity or out of fear. Okay, and then this is, again, I mentioned that you're going to be having a handout. The next slide has a QR code, which actually includes this, this reset, which we did a 10-minute version of it. But it will include this list here for you so that you can have that to incorporate into a daily practice or an evening practice. And that's it for the presentation. So thank you for your presence and your questions. And I have some resources here, the book that I mentioned, my website. And then I list some somatic approaches again, which are also, I think, listed on the handout, which is on that QR code that you can access to. And then also there is a website called therapinai.com, which actually has a list of local mental health wellness providers for the Filipino community or anyone really. As well as there's a number here that the Hawaii State offers for mental health resources, 988. And that's it. So I'd like to open it up for any questions. How are folks doing? Overwhelmed with information?
I have a comment. I like that you mentioned about the healing sounds, um, like the music frequencies and stuff. I thought that was really interesting because I saw a video on it. But I was wondering, does it work for dogs too? Like, if I have like a very anxious dog, like he's wild. Like I just need him to calm down. He's just really hyperactive, and I was wondering if like sound therapy or sound healing, like the one that you mentioned earlier, like certain frequencies would work for anxiety. Does it work for our fur babies?
It definitely wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
It's definitely worth trying. I mean, that's what's nice about all of these suggestions is that they're easy to just try on and see what works for you because everyone's different. There's actually, what I actually presented is a simplified version. When you go to a therapeutic practitioner, they would definitely get deeper. They would help you to figure out what applications are more appropriate. But this is for more like for self-healing, right? And easy access. But yeah, I would say it's definitely worth trying for your fur babies for sure. And it wouldn't hurt. You might even actually try singing. Does your dog like when you sing? So actually that's
He actually falls asleep. So
there you go.
uh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually what I'm getting that would be helpful. So yeah, if folks have any particular um I think I saw a question. Now I'm able to kind of see questions here. Um, oh yeah, tuning forks for sure. And no, you don't have to have a Kindle device to download the book from Amazon, but actually, I if you do the QR code, I also provide a PDF version of the book for free. So it's going to be available, I think until July 9th. And then after that, the link is going to be closed. But in addition to the handout, I'm also offering a free copy of a PDF of my book. So congrats to you all for showing up. That's my thank you present.
Another question, just in case anyone doesn't. In your session, share a moment from your practice where someone experienced a breakthrough after combining a physical healing with spiritual or emotional work.
Um, it's like I go to a kind of another realm when I'm doing the work. So it's funny, sometimes I don't have like really obvious examples. But I just know that folks, always message me the next day like, wow, I just feel so much lighter, like they come in so stressed, right? Or so, in a crisis. And then after doing a lot of the different combined work, right? Whether it's the gentle alignment work combined with I have the frequency music going on, which is tailored specifically to them. I have, I'll pull out the tuning forks like Kima mentioned. Again, and may put it on particular acupuncture points that might be relevant to what they're going through. At the same time that I'm doing, I may pull up an affirmation like, and I'm looking around because I have my sheets up here, like, it is safe now to live life to the fullest, right? And so it's a full sensory experience, because also at the same time I do also use that's why I call my practice mind body energy medicine, because I'll also use flower essence and gem elixirs, which also help to again move any dense energies. Because I noticed I was working on someone the other day and I forgot that I'm here in Guam, so I didn't have my elixirs out. So I was doing the energy work and I'm like, oh, this is really a lot of work. It's heavy, it's dense, and I'm having to do a lot of work. And then I realized, oh, I forgot my elixirs. So I brought the elixirs out, and these elixirs include essential oils too, right? So sometimes the sensory experience of smell, as well as the healing power of that particular oil, will also, contribute to the experience. So even Natalie, that might be something helpful for your fur baby too, is to find some particular sprays that also might be helping to calm down your fur baby.
Thank you.
So yeah, so then they'll come back to me feeling, a sustained sense of wellness. Until they live life, and then, come to the next level of challenge, and then they come back.
Thank you, Manong. Last question. And then this is something I had when you were having your lecture, is that since many of us hold such ancestral trauma in our bodies, and this came from the last workshop we had, how do you see energy medicine or somatic work helping to release or integrate that pain?
Yeah,
Sorry, Chachi, can you repeat your question?
Yes. My question was, how do you see energy medicine or somatic work helping to release or integrate that pain through?
So from an energy perspective, trauma or any kind of big emotional experiences that have not been properly processed get stored in the body as an incoherence, as a block, as something that is like not processed, right? And so it kind of stores in the body, and actually, eventually it will come up again when you have, well, it'll get triggered, at times that are similar to the experience that you had. But then in terms of actually how to treat it and how to transform it, and I talk about this in my book, when I see it as a dissonance, well, how do we bring it into more harmony? Right. And so the process of doing that can be from many different angles. It can be from an actual sound healing angle, literally, in terms of, bringing that sound to a particular area of the body where the tension is being held or stored. It can also be through, the kind of talk and narrative, conscious awareness of the experience, or even just the pain. It doesn't have to be the experience itself, but holding the experience while breathing, you know, or while doing these, you know, therapists will use like eye movements. So it's kind of like shifting the stress response of that experience so that it kind of neutralizes it, so that eventually you can look at the experience as something that happened in your past, but doesn't have the same amount of power anymore, right? So you're kind of trying to neutralize the power of the experience so that it becomes just something that you can look back and say, you know, yeah, that happened, versus, oh my God, it happened and it's still, right? Holding me hostage in the past. So a lot of these mind body therapies that I mentioned, you know, skillfully, you know, bring you to a place of integration. But then, you know, that's, you only see the therapist or the healing practitioner, you know, once a month or once a week, right? So what do you do in the interim? And so that's some of the techniques that I mentioned. And also just trying to remember, okay, how did the therapist do that with me? Can I do that with myself? Right? Because it's not just, you know, it's a constant process, right? You're going to get triggered here, triggered there. And so what are the techniques that you can use to bring, because the ultimate goal is integration, is kind of saying, yes, that happened. I learned a lot of things from that. I'm grateful at the same time that, yes, of course, I hold whatever and whoever accountable, but it's not going to, it's no longer going to take over my physiology and continue to harm me, right? Because that's really what's happening, is every time you relive that, you're harming yourself. You're harming you're lowering your vagal tone, right? And you're reliving this harmful experience. So how do you know, calm that lion or tiger fear, right? The fight or flight or fear response, shutdown response. And so that's where the body experiences come into play, the breathing, all of those things. I hope that helps. Sorry, I kind of talked a lot.
No worries, Zara. And it looks like Nikki has a question.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just, I guess, some context. I'm currently getting my master's for clinical mental health counseling.
Mm,
And one of the biggest things that for myself that I worry about, because this is something that I experience almost on a daily basis, is getting overwhelmed and feeling the emotions and the feelings of others, even if they're not talking to me, just the energy around them. As
mhm,
someone who does both mind, body, energy work with others, how do you keep from, I guess, letting it overtake you during sessions or
mhm,
letting it affect you on a deep level? I guess in another way, how do you continue to do your work with a clear head and releasing whatever is coming
mhm.
at you?
Right, and not burn out. Yeah, and it's a constant practice, right? So great question. Um, I'll have to say I do kind of live a very I try to be as grounded as possible and have practices. So I know for me um when I get affected by whatever the other you know, the patient is going through, that's a little sign that tells me that there's something for me that needs processing, right? Because it's not necessarily that I'm taking on that patient's thing, you know, issue, but that there's something within me that's resonating, right? That I also need to process, because if I'm still triggered by it or I'm still stressed out by it, that means I haven't done my work. So it's a little like, okay, thank you for showing me that. And okay, I'm going to note that so that I can work on that later. I can tap on it, breathe through it, you know, do my narrative journaling, whatever it is, to kind of process through that. So that's one side of it, right? Okay, being grateful for the opportunity to show me that there's something else that I need to process. Okay, there it is. But in the meantime, you know, you got to get through the day, right? So yeah, so those making sure that my blood sugar doesn't get too low, so I'm making sure that I'm, you know, snacking if I need to have that around. you know, whatever I need to ground, right? There might be times when if I have the ability in my office, I'll lay down and I'll put my legs up. That 90-degree leg rest is a really great way to calm my nervous system down. I'll use, you know, sprays. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of that too, and you do it too, right? Just to kind of energetically clear the air. And again, that kind of stimulation of the senses to help clear and shift things. Um, and yeah, eating well, eating clean, getting regular energy work myself, for sure. I think those are the major things. You know, it's definitely a lifestyle to be able to work with other people and, you know, be grounded and balanced yourself. Yeah, and to be able to be with other people's suffering, and, you know, it's a big job. And so it requires, you know, it's like what an athlete has to do to maintain, right, their excellence. You also have to do too.
Thank you. And just like kind of to put it into another way of saying it, I guess, it's like a athletes work out and condition to keep their body at top, at their top tier.
Mhm,
So as counselors, therapists, healers, keeping their energy and brain and I guess quote unquote
mhm.
working it out to make sure they're the strongest they can be.
Exactly. And actually that is something that I will also do at the end of practice. Is sometimes I'll actually do um, some kind of brain balancing work. So if it's going to the gym, or you know, doing some like kind of cross, you know, left, right, cross body brain balancing stuff, you know, functional strength training, those kind of things help move the energy too on a bodily kind of level. Mhm. Great questions. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Well, since I know we're running out of time, I'll hand it off to Chachi with the closing.
Oh, can't hear you, Chachi.
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Joan. Thank you so much, Dr. Chris Lipa, for sharing your deep wisdom and powerful approach to healing. And thank you, everyone, for showing up with your presence, curiosity, and your heart. Today, we are also reminded that the path to wellness is not just clinical, but it's energetic, ancestral, intuitive, and embodied. Whether it was your first time hearing about some of these approaches or a return to what you've always known, we hope you leave feeling a little bit more resourced and connected. Before we close, a few quick reminders. A follow-up email will be going out with the recorded. Feel free to drop any last reflections, thank yous, or aha moments in the chat. We would love to hear how this space supported you. You can also stay connected with Dr. Chris Lipat on his work at Dr. X Lipat on Instagram, and follow the amazing Filipino GCs at the Instagram if you already have it. Once and for all, because Dr. Chris did do an opening meditation, I wanted to give extension of a final breath together. So inhale through the nose and then exhale through the mouth. Be gentle with yourself today. Healing takes time. You're not alone. Thank you, everyone. And then I'll hand it off to Joan for a quick picture.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick picture real quick before we go, but if Dr. Chris Lipa, if you could please like unshare your screen.
Okay. How do you do that?
I
I
think
see how
at
to
the okay, there you go. Okay,
yeah,
I'm gonna
okay,
take
thanks.
a couple takes. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, all good. Thank you so much again, everyone for attending. I hope all of you got some sort of like lesson from that. I know I really learned a lot with like getting a bunch of techniques that I didn't even know about. So yeah, this will definitely be helpful for me. So yeah, other than that, have a good night and thank you again to Dr. Chris Lipat for like conducting this whole workshop. Yeah.
Thanks. Great to see
Okay.
everybody. Aloha.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mhm.